In this episode, we speak with Gigi Schweikert, CEO of Lightbridge Academy, a state-of-the-art childcare franchise. The company currently has over 120 childcare centers open, under construction, or in development throughout Florida, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and several other states. Lightbridge Academy's proprietary early childhood education curriculum impacts the whole child in a multitude of ways. By embracing every moment as another opportunity to learn, all developmental areas are met, unlocking every child's potential. Schweikert took over from Lightbridge founding CEO Guy Falzarano in 2021. She started her career as director of the United Nations Early Childhood Care and Learning Center. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and the managing partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Great Entrepreneurs, a podcast for driven entrepreneurs and business owners. Our podcast covers all topics related to the entrepreneurial journey, from ideation to execution to optimization and to reaping the rewards of a well-run business. In the minutes ahead, we'll share with you unique insights and tactics from some of today's most accomplished and inspiring entrepreneurs.
Gigi, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you as well.
So something interesting I saw on your website is that the childcare sector is projected to be $74 billion by 2027. You obviously, through Lightbridge Academy, play a role in the overall childcare sector in the earlier stage, pre-K, and even younger. Tell us about what makes Lightbridge Academy different from the other childcare centers out there.
That's such a good question. And there is so much that's happening in early childhood education from an awareness point of view on the government level, in the public and the private sectors. And it's really an amazing time and opportunity for people to be educated about and to recognize and realize how much of the formative years are happening in those ages of 0 to 5 and 0 to even 13, and how important quality care is. So there's lots of great quality care out there. There are some areas in our country where there is no quality care, and we call that childcare desert. So not only does Lightbridge work to serve the demographics that we're currently serving in the locations that we have, and I'll tell you in a second about what differentiates us, but we're also working to help make sure that children who are underserved, who don't have access to childcare, that we can figure out ways to cure those childcare deserts and to make sure that children who have childcare don't just have daycare or babysitting, but quality education. So that's what we start with, quality care and education. We are the solution for working parents. So not only do we serve the child, but we serve the family. We're looking to place our centers close to where parents work or close to where they live. Before the pandemic, we definitely would focus a little bit more on people who are commuting into cities and things of that nature. And now with hybrid models, people aren't doing as much of that, but we are still seeing a great demand for early childhood education and childcare settings. The other piece that really sets us apart is technology. So we have a lot of different technology pieces. And while you'll find some of these technology pieces within the framework of some of our competitors, you won't find its entirety anywhere else. And so we've got facial recognition. We have Parent View, which is our cameras that are in every single classroom and our multi-purpose room that parents can look in on any device and see what's happening in their child's room or the multi-purpose room or wherever their child might be. And that's really important to us because while other child care centers may say they have an open door policy, we have a virtual open door policy, and parents can see what's happening with their child at any given time. They can also share that information with their grandparents or with a friend or someone else who might want to see a parade that's happening or a super great show and tell. So we really believe that technology brings people together. We have an air purification system that is happening in all of our centers and all of our locations, as well as making sure that our curriculum really looks at caring for and educating the whole child, meaning learning how to read and write over time, but those soft skills and those social skills of learning how to interact with one another, learning how to be empathetic. The Lightbridge Promise is our health and safety and the gold standard of making sure that we are communicating, that we have that air filtration system that I talked about, and also that we are letting parents see everything that we're doing. So lots of transparency there. The last thing that I'll add that I really think sets us apart more than anything is our circle of care and our core values. And it's based on happiness and integrity and caring deeply and nurturing. And we really make every single decision at our home office, as well as our centers, based on that circle of care and those core values. So culture is a very big piece, and we want happy people working with young children.
That's fantastic. And it really does seem like you're growing quickly. You've got a lot of locations currently in existence and under development. And so you've been able to not only prove out the model, but thrive, it looks like in the Northeast, parts of the Mid-Atlantic. So in entering this space over 20 years ago, I'm sure it was not easy. I know you've been there maybe for the last several years, but can you tell us a little bit about how the organization, the company evolved over time?
Absolutely. The founders are Guy and Julia Falzarano, and Guy actually just stepped away from the business to retire about a year and a half ago. I have been with the company for about 8 years and was very grateful to be asked to step into his very big shoes as the founder and now as the CEO. So it started with the idea of helping all children under the rainbow, and it was originally called Rainbow Academy. We rebranded to Lightbridge Academy, which is kind of a spectrum of light, almost like a rainbow. And inclusiveness, making sure that it's really great quality is what happened. So Guy and his wife opened the very first childcare center right down the street from our current office. And quickly within a year, opened a second one, had many parents who were asking about franchising at that time. The company really wasn't ready to start franchising and did some license agreements and some things where they helped to provide the curriculum and the prototype and did some of the back end accounting and things like that. And over time, I think the brand and the parent referral and the franchisee referral has really what's grown Lightbridge Academy. Even when we look at our data, we see that what people think about the brand and what they say to the people that they know about the brand is really how we have become successful. Obviously, you have to have a good proven system and model that works, and we're constantly improving that system, using our franchisees now and our teachers and staff members who are on the front line to duplicate what we're doing and to make sure that the curriculum is always first and foremost the most important thing for the children, and that's up to date and helpful to them, that we have a clean environment and all of those things. So it's been a really great history of the company. And we really have a family feel at the company as well. And as we scale, we look to make sure that we maintain that close family knit feeling at each one of our centers, even though the number of units is increasing. And it's been very exciting to grow up in the Northeast. We've been geographically constrained there, more difficult to find sites. And so you'll find us morphing into spaces that are on a pad site or the end cap of a strip mall. And as we're moving down the East Coast and over to Texas, we're more able to easily secure an individual lot and do a ground up building. The buildings are beautiful, but whether you're able to see a gorgeous standalone building or you are looking at something that's a retrofit into a more urban-like area, what you'll feel and see when you're on the inside is that the culture that I talked about before, the core values and the circle of care. And I believe, again, that framework that Guy and his wife, Julia, instilled is really what makes us strong today.
So you have a great framework. You choose locations methodically. Once a franchisee gets up and running, what is typically the toughest thing for the franchisee to learn and execute on?
That is a great question. So we do a lot of training and a lot of support on what a franchisee needs to run a successful unit. I think given that it is a somewhat costly investment and that the net worth of the individual who's going to participate in a single unit venture has to be at least over $1 million, brings us individuals who have been successful in their own right. And I think one of the things that's most important in franchising is the ability to be able to follow the recipe. So I think one of the hardest things for franchisees in that first year is not reinventing the wheel. They purchased a franchise because the model works. And so it's encouraging them to stick with it, even when it seems like they're not gaining traction, they really are. And that after that year, once they've really started to understand what the brand looks like, what it feels like, how it operates, what our processes are, then we invite them to the table to really voice innovations and opportunities to improve those processes and the overall brand for the entire franchise community.
And as the CEO of the franchisor, what do you spend most of your time on?
It's building the team that's going to serve the franchise community. And so the way I look at our home office, and we purposefully call it a home office, not a corporate office, is that when you see an organizational chart, you'll see the CEO at the top and then a cascading of the people from vice presidents and the C-suite moving down. And I like to see that organizational chart flip upside down so that myself and the other people who are in the senior team, as well as our vice presidents and everyone at the home office, sees themselves as support vehicles to those who are in the community. And so it is our job and responsibility to serve them with a servant's heart. And so I believe that my job is to make sure that every day we're making it easier for our franchisees to be successful, for our children to be successful, our parent consumers, and of course, our employees.
The servant leadership model is one that has become fairly well known, probably because of its effectiveness. Can you tell us a little bit more? I know you're somewhat of a guru in leadership. So can you provide a little bit more color on servant leadership or other aspects of how you lead?
Absolutely. I think one is that you have to listen a lot more than you talk, although I'm doing a lot of talking right now. I think that you have to approach everything with a why not philosophy. And that means that every consideration that an employee brings, or child, or parent, or franchisee, is to be able to open your mind and to be able to be very flexible and think, why not, to their request. Now, why not doesn't always mean yes. And we have to look at how that impacts the entire circle of care that we have, as well as the brand. But I do believe that in every thought, and especially in every complaint and dissatisfied customer, there's usually an air of truth. And so I think listening and improving that service every day is really important. And it starts with things as simple as a smile. And one of our core values is leading by example. So as a leader, I believe that everyone who works at Lightbridge Academy is a leader, and all of our teachers, our franchisees, are all leading someone. And making sure that we do that with integrity and making sure that we give people time, we listen to people, and we value them and recognize their efforts. So I like to say, I see you, I hear you, I value you. And that takes a great deal of time to really listen to people. And there are ways to do that through the franchise advisory committee, through surveys and other things that will give us the opportunity to really hear what people have to say, whether they're willing to tell you that directly, either verbally or through an email, or more anonymously through a survey. So it's all about continuous improvement. And it's all about going that extra step to do the little things, because the details, it's the small things that add up to the big things.
With your background, you seem like the perfect person for this role. And I'm not just saying that because you're the guest on the podcast. It's because you started off in early childhood development with the United Nations. So you clearly have this kind of mission-driven aspect to you. But then at the same time, you're able to successfully scale a business. Tell us a little bit more about your vision for the business and what is success to you?
Such a great question. So it is very purpose-driven for me. And I believe purpose-driven for everyone at Lightbridge Academy. And we make sure as we're vetting franchisees that they recognize this is not just an opportunity for a successful financial business model, but an opportunity to do well in the community, an opportunity to give back. And so I believe that whenever we build a Lightbridge Academy in a community, that we have an aesthetically pleasing building, that we're providing a service for people, that we're giving back to the community through our foundation, that we're helping employees to dream their dreams, whether that's in the early childhood field or another field, and making franchisees feel good about what they're accomplishing, being rewarded financially for that, and in many cases, setting up a legacy program for their own families through their investment in Lightbridge. The vision that I have is that we see everyone as an individual. It's very easy when you start to scale that we look at numbers a lot. So we look at what's our occupancy and what's our FTE and what's our revenue. And those are extremely important data points while we're growing and looking at what we need to grow. But if we drill down deep enough, we can see that each one of those FTEs, as we call it, full-time equivalents, represents a child, and it represents a family behind it. And if we can always remember, if we can never forget that there's a person there on the other end of that, and make sure that we continue to serve them with the best customer experience that we can, we will be successful. And through that mission and through that purpose and through that every day and every interaction being genuine, then through that comes the stability of the company and the financial reward on our side.
As you're expanding into a new territory, how much analysis goes into the competitive landscape? Meaning you're looking at an area, you see maybe 2 or 3 other current establishments there in your space, and you know of others that might be moving in. How do you kind of assess that situation when you're looking at different locations?
Site location is so very important because you need a certain number of children for the business model to work, and you need a certain income of the parent in order to pay for that business model and pay for the tuition that it costs for high quality care, which is one of the reasons I indicated earlier that we also work to make sure that children who are underserved have opportunities for quality care as well. And so we use a platform that helps us look at the demographics of that site. And we like to call it an art and a science. The science of, does it meet the requirements we're looking for as far as concentration of children, as far as parent demographics. And then the art of that is, what does the site feel like? Where is it located? On which side of the road? And then also, again, more data points on parking and things like that, and the number of cars that are going by. So lots of things that we take into consideration in finding just the right site. The location is extremely important, and we want it to be a place where it's convenient for parents, whether they're headed to their office at home or whether they're headed to their office at work.
Well, we're coming up on time. I would like to end on one last question. Talking to you, it's quite inspiring to see how your career has evolved and where you are today leading this company. Who was your role model?
So I will say that I've had a couple role models along the way. I would say that my dad was an incredible role model. He was the first person on his side of the family to go to college. And it was his desire that each one of his children, there are 3 of us, all went to school without having any school loans. So we did work and we did pay for books and other things, but we did graduate without a school loan, which was a wonderful gift to be able to give. My dad worked very hard. I would also say that the founder, Guy Falzarano, is one of my great role models. He worked with passion for 25 years in the business and made his decisions based on what was right. And doing what's right is not always easy. In the end, though, I think it's really important. So I am continuing to make my decisions based on what's right for everyone in the circle of care and based on what's right for the company. And so those people have influenced me, as well as the millions of children, and I do believe it's millions at this point, that I have either indirectly or directly affected and worked with over the 40 years of my career in early childhood education.
Well, Gigi, I want to thank you again for taking the time. You've been very generous by spending your time with us today, and I wish you the best of luck in the years ahead for Lightbridge Academy.
Thank you so much.